Hi, good morning, rise and shine, Hope Hub, rise and shine. As you log in, as you watch live or you watch the replay, please, for goodness sake, wave, say hi, like the video, and tell me where you're watching from, because that's important. I like to know who the people are that are watching the video and where they're watching from. So today the question that I have for you early this morning is, what can you do with what is in your hand? What can you do with what is in your hand? And this is speaking to most of us find ourselves hitting a roadblock in life, right? Or finding yourself up against a wall. And you're looking at your situation and you're thinking there's no apparent way out. But this morning, what I'm here to tell you is that there is always a way out. Everything is possible. Everything is possible. And all of us have creativity. All of us have imagination. All of us have the ability to problem solve and find solutions. It's just that you have to take the time to be creative and flexible with what it is that you're working with, right? Or working on. So pursuing a goal is a constantly evolving process. You have to be willing to evolve. And I'm actually reading a book currently that's called Unstoppable by Cynthia Kersey. It's not a new book. It's a book that I got from the library, and this is like my newest best book that I've read in a long time. And maybe it's because it has a lot of inspirational stories. It has 45 inspirational stories, and then alongside those stories of real people, it gives nuggets in terms of how they overcame and how they persevered through life. So this morning I was actually reading about J.J. Johnson, who was the founder of the Negro Digest, Jet magazine, and Ebony. And I'm not sure if later on he's founded other magazines, because this was in 1998, but he started his work in November 1st, 1942. So that company has grown by leaps and bounds. And Ebony magazine is a magazine that I'm sure is nationwide, and maybe it's actually global. I'm not sure. But what I wanted to talk to you about is, he says in order for him to persevere and to be successful, and how he made it to have his work out in the world, he looked at his situation and he said, what can I do with what it is that I have in my hand? What can I do with what it is that I have in my hand? So I'm asking you to ask yourself that same question this morning. So with him, he had no capital. He went to different banks to try and get the money in order for him to be able to distribute, and in order for him to be able to create his magazine. And because no one was funding him or giving him the capital, John Johnson, what he did is that he asked himself that question, and he was doing a magazine for blacks. And let me read this. Starting a paper for blacks about blacks. And everywhere he would go, everyone would say, no blacks are going to buy your magazines. Can you imagine that there's no market for a magazine that features black people, and that black people will want to read? Like, really? So he wasn't getting the loans from the banks. And so what he decided to do is he took his mom's furniture and he put it up for collateral at the bank, and they gave him $500. And then with that $500, he went and he printed 2,000 copies of his first magazine. And then he took it to newsstands, because he couldn't even get a distributor who was willing to distribute this magazine about blacks for blacks. And he went to newsstands and he took the magazine around newsstands. And then he asked 30 of his friends to go to each of those newsstands and ask for a copy of his magazine. And at that time it was the Negro Digest. And guess what? A distributor called him, because of course word on the street was that this new magazine was really on demand by the blacks in the community. And so all of a sudden a distributor called him and said, hey, we want to distribute your magazine. And that's how he started. So obviously he did not let the fact that there were a lot of naysayers in his life, a lot of people in the community who did not believe in the power of what it is that he was doing, stop him. He was unstoppable. And really that's what this book is about. And what I'll try and do this week is come to you once a day and talk about one of these stories that has inspired me in this book. They are 45 stories, so I can't speak about all of them, but this one in particular struck me as one that may interest all of us, especially in a day and age when things can hit you, roadblocks happen, adversity happens, challenges happen, but don't let them stop you, because anyone who's been successful in life, anyone who's done anything of great impact, any person who's invented a product, they all of them, when you speak to them, they will tell you that where they started is probably not where they ended up. We all have a powerful imagination. All of us have these dreams and aspirations and things that you're thinking in your mind. I want to do this. But what I ask you is hold on to that vision, but also understand that it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a process of evolving, right? In order for you to attain what it is that you want to attain, you have to evolve with the times, right? And I'm going to read one of the quotes here that I really love from this book that talks about your imagination. It says, your imagination is the preview to life's coming attractions. It's just a preview. It doesn't show you the whole picture. It's just a preview. And so don't give up on your dreams. Hold steadfast to where it is you're going, because, in the process, right, there's going to come things that will obstruct your path. There's going to come things that completely block your path to your destination. But in order for you to make it to wherever you're going, know that it's going to be a bumpy road. There are going to be twists and turns and occasional roadblocks. But that journey requires that you modify. That journey requires that you course correct. That journey requires that you make adjustments to your thoughts and your actions, not just once, but over and over. And it means that you be flexible and creative. So think of yourself as a well-trained pilot. In this book, she talks about, my brother is a pilot, which is interesting because I didn't know this, but they talk about how usually even when a plane is set on a course, a lot of times things shift to where the plane will go off course once in a while. And so like a pilot's job is really to ensure, it's like you'd think I would know this, is to ensure that the plane does not shift too much from its course. But the shift is to be expected. And one of the things that it says in this book is that aviation experts say that a typical flight from New York to Hawaii is slightly off course 90% of the time. So maybe with the new tools and strategies in the last 20 years since this book has been written, maybe that doesn't happen as often. But can you imagine that a flight from New York to Hawaii is constantly shifting off of its course 90% of the time? So even in your life, in terms of where you're heading, expect that there are going to be shifts, right? You're going to be swaying back and forth, but your goal is to continue to look and see whatever it is you saw in your mind's eye and never, ever, ever give up. People like Albert Einstein, Albert Einstein invented the light bulb, right? He failed over and over and over again, but he continued to be creative. He continued to course correct until he hit that destination. So my last thing is that creativity is a muscle, and that imagination is more important than knowledge. So I didn't even know this. This is something that Albert Einstein said, that creativity is a muscle and imagination is more important than knowledge. So people think like, oh my God, he had a huge brain and that's how he was able to do what it is he did. But he says, no, he begs to differ. How he was successful in what it is he wanted to do was his ability to continue to stay steadfast on his path and his ability to problem solve. So my strategy for you today is, if you've hit a roadblock in anything that you're currently doing, take a piece of paper and pen and write 1 through 10, and whatever it is that you've been trying to achieve and you've kind of hit a roadblock and you're saying it's done for, write from the top of your brain any crazy solution, 1 through 10 things that you can do to continue on that path if it's that important to you. So for example, I know like Pastor Touré Roberts of One Church LA, which is now part of the Potter's House, he wanted to have a space, a church in LA. and space was at a premium, and he was trying to find a place to have his church, and he couldn't find any, right? And so what he did at the end of the day is he started looking for warehouses. And you've seen pastors do this nowadays, where you'll write down on a sheet of paper, what other avenue can I use to reach the flock, right? So we now have people who are Facebook preachers. With Pastor Toure, he ended up at a movie theater that was empty in LA, but it was still space. It still had the seats. It can still have the capacity to hold a church. And that's where he started. So where have you seen people who maybe it's not the expectation that a church will be in a movie theater? It's not the expectation that this is how you solve a particular problem, but they thought outside the box and they were able to continue on to their dreams, right? So yeah, write down 1 through 10 and come up with possible creative solutions. Exercise your creativity today. So I'm going out to run. Remember, your imagination is the preview of life's coming attractions. And I will continue this week to talk about this book that I'm reading by Cynthia Kersey, Unstoppable. And I'll bring you different stories in the book that I think will inspire the Hope Hub, especially people who are wanting to continue to believe in something and have hope for something. God bless you all. Have an amazing Monday. Rise and shine.